Have you ever thought about learning the game of poker? Today we're talking about the powerful fundamentals of the game of poker. Amanda shares why and how she learned the game and lessons learned from her experience. Amanda says you will learn how to make moves and put yourself out there. So please stick around and enjoy the show.
Welcome, my friends, to another episode of Coffee with Tea. I'm your host, Tonia Tyler, and I'm excited because today we're going to talk about the power game of poker, and no other person than to have Miss Amanda Botfeld, who shares her story, and she's going to tell you how to be powerful in your game. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on Miss Amanda Botfeld. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
It's a pleasure to
Game
talk
on.
to you. Yes, game on, my friend. So I like to always start out like, how are you, your family dealing with the COVID-19, and then we can share a little bit more about who you are, and then we can go into your story.
All right. Fortunately, we haven't been, no one's been hospitalized, no one's been ill, but kind of funny, my boyfriend and I in March, we went to Niagara Falls for my birthday and we got stuck there for 6 months. He's an Irish citizen, and all the flights back to Europe got canceled, and you couldn't go back and forth in the border with Canada. So we spent a very interesting summer in Niagara Falls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was kind of, I don't know if you've been there, but there's a lot of, it's almost like amusement park vibes, and it was abandoned. So it felt like the apocalypse had happened.
Wow.
Like haunted mansions that were like abandoned, and they were still, the animatronics were still on.
Right. I mean, you know what? That sounds like a whole other story on its own. So, I mean, I didn't even know I was going to open up that can of worms. But yeah, I mean, because if you go on vacation, you didn't expect to spend 6 months up in that area, right?
Oh my gosh, we had no idea. We had absolutely no idea. So that's our little, someday we'll tell our kids the summer we spent in Niagara Falls.
Right. So, that was a tidbit I didn't know, but hey, yeah. I always love these things because you always find something new. But Miss Amanda, tell a little bit about what you do and how you got to this journey of poker.
Sure. So right now I work for the organization Poker Power. That's Power, H-E-R. And I also teach my own private poker lessons. And I'm all about having women succeed in business and in life through the game of poker. And I'm also the author of the book, Girl's Guide to Poker. But I didn't always do this. I started off, I was actually a political writer. I specialized in Middle Eastern foreign policy, and I wrote a newsletter. And my job was to make all this hard stuff simple. And, it was like politics made easy. And then I discovered poker. They opened up a new casino right outside of DC, the border with Maryland. And I was like, the only thing that's as difficult as, my day job is this poker game. And I think it's even harder. And so I wanted to do the same skill set and do poker made simple. And how do we figure out the complexities of this game and make it accessible to everyone?
Right. And
especially women.
Well, that's another thing, because when I read your bio, I was thinking a woman who's in poker, and I'm not saying that women can't be card players. I'm not saying that. I just rarely ever hear of it actually as a business in the mindset, and how it grew to that way. So that was a pivoting moment that I wasn't familiar with. So, but you can tie this into a business and it becomes a power move for yourself, because you got to only know how to read the cards, but you read your clients as well. So how did that all filter into what you do now?
That skill set will be, when you're playing poker, every hand, you want to think of it as a negotiation. How much can I get paid in this hand? Right. And my father likes to say, he has two sayings. He says, one, everything I learned about business, I learned from the poker table. And two, he says, In business, you never get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate.
Mm.
And I really think that when you play poker day in and day out, plus it's 96% men, the demographic. So it is, dealing with a male dominated environment, as many corporations are. You are just practicing saying, hey, this is what I think my worth is, just like your cards. You're like, I'm setting the price. This is what I think I can get paid for. This is how I'm valuing my hand or what I got. And so I think you're just doing that over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I think it's tremendous practice. And I guess the last thing on that, so I teach a variety of ages. Mostly I teach women in like corporate women's groups, but I also will teach some high school clubs. And when you get to the girls, before they've had all this cultural training on them, it's so different. So it's like I play with women, adult women, and all the time I get the question, why would I bluff? They don't even understand. But when I play with high school girls, it is like they are so aggressive. They're bluffing every hand. They're playing like maniacs. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm not teaching them to be like professional poker players. And then I was like, you know what, 15-year-old guys, they're also not playing like professional poker players, but I bet they're bluffing each other. And I bet they're making moves, and I bet they're applying pressure. And that's what it is when you're in poker. You're saying, my hand versus your hand. Here's what I'm worth. Here's, the moves I'm going to put you in. And so I love when I love teaching all ages, but one of the things that's special about those high school girls is, they would give any guy a run for their money. They play hard. They play hard.
Right. So Miss Amanda, how did you really dive into say the game of poker itself? Yeah. I mean, what made you say, this is the area I want to learn?
That's a great question. As alluded to before, I knew a little bit from my dad. My dad's pretty good, actually. It's funny, when I started learning how to play poker, I was like, is my dad really as good as I think he is? No, he's really good. So I knew a little bit from my dad, but by the time, when that casino opened in DC, and it was like an event, like everyone went to this opening, like they had like concerts and shows. I went with my roommate, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be this awesome poker player like my dad. And I sit down at the table and I get my backside handed to me. And I am so bad that one of my first times playing poker there, a guy turns to me and he says, you played that hand horribly. And I went, how so? And he said, well, for starters, I could see your cards. And I was like, okay, fair point. Like, that's how bad I was when you're in the real world, is I didn't even know how to hold my cards right. I didn't know anything about the strategy. And, I was working as, technically my title was a research associate, a writer researcher. So I was like, I'll get a book and learn how to play poker, which I called all these bookshops in DC. And I think they thought I was crazy. Like, poker, what? So I Ubered to a strip mall 45 minutes away in Virginia. So that was the nearest place I could find like Texas Hold'em for dummies. And that was way too hard for me. And I was so frustrated because I go and I finally find this Barnes & Noble out in the middle of nowhere. And they have like 2 beginners poker books, and they're both too hard for me to understand. And they're both like math textbooks. And at that point I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure out this game, and I'm going to write the book that's Poker Made Easy. And here we are, like 2-3 years later, and you can get my book on Amazon. It's also on the Barnes & Noble website, Target.
Congratulations on that book and stuff like that. So what's the one thing you really learn over your lessons as you've been developing your poker skills and stuff like that, and you can apply it to life?
You have to be able to read people beyond what they say. Poker, so the poker, you have the math element, and then you have the social element, right? And you've got body language and all these things. And all the time you'll hear someone at a poker table say, are you bluffing? And, if they say no, that doesn't mean you should just believe them, right?
Right.
What I learned is that The nonverbal communication is the communication. And I'd read all those studies before, especially when it comes to like dating. Because when I started playing poker, I was like 23, 24. And it was, they say things like communication is like this percent body language, this percent tone, and only like 7% the words you say. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm pretty verbal. I'm pretty talkative. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to believe everyone and I trust them and it's all fine. People are what they say. And when you play poker, you realize, you have to be able to read between the lines. And you have to be able to see what somebody's saying holistically. What's everything that they're saying, not just their words and not just what they want you to think they're saying.
Right. Oh, that's a valuable lesson. That, like I said, Amanda's dropping some nuggets here, and if you're picking them up, make sure you hit that thumbs up and let us know, because she's talking about a lot of the stuff. You think you're applying it just to poker, but it's the game of life. You can apply this to your game. So, what's one of the key things that you could see? When do we make that shift? Like, say you teach the young girls and they're really aggressive. Yeah. So when do you see like the shift in women when we start to fold our cards and we're losing at this game here?
That's an excellent question. Because I teach high school, college, and adult women, I almost immediately see it when they start college. Yeah, it's not quite as strong as some of the adult women's, but in a way they're even more timid when they're in college. And like, not wanting to mess up, where the high school girls are like, rawr, a lot of my best high school students are girls that play sports.
Oh, is it because of aggressiveness or what? I think
it's the being competitive, right? You need to enjoy being competitive. And you also, especially as women, you want to be able to handle a win. Those people that can't handle a compliment, right? When you say like, you look great, and they're like, they can't handle it. They're like, no, not today. I don't look good at all. Well, amplify that a little bit further, raise the stakes, to use a pun. And then in life, you need to be able to handle a win. If someone wants to hire you, you need to say, great, and this is what I want for my paycheck. You have to be able to kind of go that step further and relate to yourself as a winner. And then also be responsible when you lose and you made a mistake. And I think sports teaches a lot of those lessons. Like, did you give it your all in your training? And in poker, if you really, really want to succeed, then you have to have a level of discipline. The professional poker players, and I teach my students, they fold 80% of their cards. 80% of their hands. So you think, hey, I'm going to go to a poker table. I'm going to play all these cards. If you're playing correctly, the vast majority of the time, you're just going to be folding and you're just going to be sitting around disciplined. And then I always say the way to win is you play very few hands very aggressively. So I think to circle back, I start to notice in college, it becomes less about like, hey, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to make moves and I'm going to win. And I want to, put pressure on my friends, which is what the high school attitude is like. To in college, I think a lot of my girls, I would use the word timid and are a little bit more shell-shocked and a little bit more, again, that why would I bluff? Why would I make a move? Aren't I supposed to have my heart on my sleeve every minute?
Right. I don't know what's the greatest lesson that you've learned from the game since you started?
From the game since I started. For me, personally, it was how to talk to men. Because when I started playing poker, I was mostly writing, it was Middle Eastern type stuff, but I also wrote an article in the LA Times about dating. And it was like kind of the boom of dating apps. And I went on like a million dates. And I was living in Los Angeles and then in DC, right? And I went on 1,000,001 dates and it didn't work out. And I wrote about this in the LA Times. And I didn't understand why I wasn't connecting. And what was that missing piece? And then when I go to a poker table, it's like boot camp for like talking to guys, it's like you're spending like 8 hours because a poker tournament usually takes 8 hours. Sometimes you'll be sitting there like 12 hours just doing nothing but talking to guys. And you start to reach a point where your conversations aren't like, you like vanilla ice cream? I like vanilla ice cream. You start, right? You start to learn how to be real, and you start to learn that, what makes someone them isn't necessarily what school they went to or their job, but it's, do you like sitting in their company? Do you like being in their space? How do they handle a win? Are they nice to people? Just like really having that atmosphere and that sense of presence around a person. To put it another way, I was not chill. And and I guess what I learned from poker is how to chill out, right? How to be cool there in that sense. And it's funny because when I was playing poker, it was like I was so done. I was so burnt out from all those dating apps. And, I didn't want my weekend to be about like fitting into a miniskirt, like as it was every Saturday night. And I was like, all right, let me play poker. This is a mind game. It's fun. Maybe I'll make some money, right? All these things. I was already competitive. And I ended up meeting my boyfriend at a poker table, and we've been together 2 years now.
Well, congrats on that one.
Yeah. So like one of the last chapters of my book is kind of our like happy ending. And most of the book is a how-to. It's like a 90% how-to book, learn how to play poker, but there's a little bit of like memoir peppered in there. And the very end, it's kind of like the elephant in the room. And it's the chapter, it's called Your Guide to Dating Poker Players. So if you want something more fun, that's a good one.
Right. So yeah. I like I said, I love some of the stuff that you're learning and sharing with us. And I want to say thank you for sharing your wisdom and your insight and how it came about and like that. So I really want to know, did we really touch on what's the one thing you really want to leave the audience with? Sometimes I get so caught up in the conversation. We might have looped around a couple times, but I wanted to make sure that, what's the one thing you want to leave the audience with?
Sure. Whether it is through poker or some other means, you've got to practice being aggressive. What I love about the game is over and over, hand after hand, you are practicing being aggressive and making moves. And I think we put all this, we say women, we want them to be in these competitive career paths, but when it comes to our recreational activities, when it comes to our fun, women aren't gamers. Women aren't poker players. Women aren't doing this same kind of thing. And I think if we want women to succeed, in their professional life, then we've got to make your fun time, your free time, your activities, you got to have fun making moves. Got to have fun putting yourself out there, being aggressive, going for it.
I love that. So thank you, Miss Amanda, for the insight. And I want to wrap the question up with, where can people find more information about you, your services, and your book?
Absolutely. So my website is amandapoker.com. Pretty easy, amandapoker.com. I do events too. Like I do Zoom parties and things like that. So if you want to have we can do like a 4-week learn poker class, but if you're like, you know what, I've got this girls group and we want to do something fun during lockdown and COVID that is COVID safe, then hire me and we can do a poker party. And you can also, of course, get my book. It's on Amazon, A Girl's Guide to Poker by Amanda.
Botfeld, remember that.
Amanda Botfeld, but that's hard to spell. So, I just say by Amanda. I'm the one who got it right, how to pronounce it, Botfeld.
So again, I want to thank you for being on here. And remember, if you're enjoying what Amanda dropped down there and you picked up some golden nuggets, make sure you give us a thumbs up. And also, before I close out, remember also, feedback is always welcome. Email us if you have any guest and show ideas. Links, again, will be posted in the comments. So all of Amanda's information will be down there, including her book, so you can find out where to get it. And so make sure you hit that description box down there. And again, thank you for watching. And if you're enjoying the insight that Miss Amanda shared and you want to see all the other insights that we have coming on the show, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And last thing, but never least, take things in stride, go with the flow, and create your own path. And we'll see you back here on another episode of Coffee with Tea. So, bye-bye for now.
Share with us. What was one of your takeaways from today's show? Post your answers on our Facebook page. Hi everyone, this is Tonia again, popping in to say thank you for listening to today's show. Coffee with Tea interviews are always free, and if you're enjoying the wisdom and insights that are being shared, please stay and grow with us and show your financial support. You can buy us coffee or become a monthly supporter. Links are posted in the description box. And again, I wanted to personally say thank you for tuning in.